Who is this?
Hello there, I'm Dave James, and welcome to a very special edition of SquabbleCast. Joining me today to celebrate 30 years of Hellraiser, Clive Barker's amazing British horror classic, is the producer of Leviathan, the story of Hellraiser and Hellbound, Mr. Danny Stewart. Hello.
Yeah, hi there, Dave. I was the co-executive producer of Leviathan, the story of Hellraiser.
Is it fair to say that Hellraiser is your favourite horror franchise?
Yeah, I say it had a huge impact on me when I was younger. The imagery, the ideas behind the film. I'm sure it had that same effect on you as well. Well, I mean, Clive Barker, he wrote a novel called The Hellbound Heart, which is what Hellraiser, the film, became. And I know that when Clive Barker wanted to make the film, he prior to Hellraiser being made, there was two films of his stories, which was Rawhead Rex and Underworld. And I know he wasn't too happy with those in film terms. You know, they weren't very poor to his vision and his story. He didn't want anyone touching his work, his written fiction work. So he was like, I'm going to make a movie. I'm going to make my own movie. And so that's when he decided to make The Hellbound Heart, which then became Hellraiser.
Julia? Don't look at me.
Who are you?
I said, don't look. Help me.
Tell me who you are.
Frank.
It's Frank, isn't it, in the first scene?
That's right, Frank Cotton.
When he first gets the puzzle box, right away it sucks you in.
It's so atmospheric. It really, like you say, it sets it up. The grimness of it. You don't really want to stop watching it, you know?
Is it Christopher Young?
That's right, Christopher Young.
It's such a fantastic opening overture. It really gets you in the mood.
Yeah, no, it's really operatic, and I think it's one of the greatest horror scores. Actually, I think he outdid his work in Part 2 for the score in Hellbound. First two Hellraiser films, the score really it's one of the best horror scores ever written for film. With the way the images were in the film, everything in that film pieced together like a puzzle. You know, it just transcended.
A really great cast as well. Let's not forget.
My favourite character in the first film was Julia. Actually, I mean, as much as I love Pinhead, I think it was Julia and Frank's story in the first film. It's more about Julia and Frank, and I think Claire Higgins' performance has got to be up there with the best female baddie villains of all time.
She really is the true antagonist at the end of the day.
Yeah, she's really. I mean, she got to go further in Hellbound, but as you say, she really was the main. Her and Frank were really the main villains in the first film, and it was more their story. Hellraiser actually, it's more of a love story than a kind of. It's not a slasher film.
Yeah, a really, really fucked up romance story. Yeah,
it's the real 50 Shades of Grey. You know.
That's true. Yeah.
I remember seeing when I was younger, I saw like cut-out posters of Pinhead, and he was the face of the video, the DVD covers. Even though he's not really the main focus of the first film.
No.
And I think that's what people forget, that he isn't really the main focus. As I said before, it's Frank and Julia's story, and there's a lot more going on. I mean, it's a complex story, even though it's simple, but it's complex.
The
The Cenobites are the creatures which pursue the movie's anti-hero Frank Cotton from the depths of hell and into the real world.
They are ageless experts in the art of refined pleasure and even more refined pain. They have made an aesthetic and indeed a lifestyle out of corrupting their own bodies, tearing them apart and reconfiguring them in various ways with hooks and various skinning devices. We've gone out of our way, Bob Keene's team and myself have gone out of the way to design monsters which are not going to really resemble anything that would have been seen before.
Doug Bradley, the mainstay of the Hellraiser series, he really does inject a lot of character into Pinhead.
A horror icon, yeah. I mean, he doesn't appear in it much, but that impact that he had on screen, the voice, the performance, the look, it's just unforgettable, you know, it's just unforgettable.
To summon us.
Who are you?
Explorers in the further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
Kirsty, then, do you think she's one of the best final girls in the cinema?
Funny enough, I think her character in Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, I think she has more to work with because of what happened to her in Hellraiser. I think she's a bit weak in the first film, but I think that's the whole point. She's supposed to be young and innocent and not really knowing of the world, but I think in the second film she had a lot more to work with, you know, and it's a bit like Sarah Connor, you know, in Terminator, you know, she's innocent in the first film and then, you know, she's in a madhouse in the second film, and funny enough, so is Kirsty in Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, you know, she's in a mental institution.
Sweet suffering.
Clive and Chris Figg was the producer, and they hadn't found the role of Kirsty yet, and hadn't found the actress for the role of Kirsty yet, and they had been to Chicago and I think London and New York, and they had come to LA, and this girl said, well, I know who you should see. And they ended up calling me at home and said, get over there. I had no idea what, and so I go and I meet with Clive, and he says, you know, your uncle is in your father's skin and he's trying to kill you and have sex with you, in that order, go. And so I cold read, and they asked if I would go to England to screen test, where I tested with Doug, and Doug played both Pinhead and Andy's role in the scene at the Chinese restaurant. So he was Dad and Demon, and I was just out of my mind because I had never been to Europe. So to look at everything, and plus there was so much jet lag and plane flight and culture shock and excitement of auditioning for something. I had no idea what I was stepping on board to do.
Hellbound, Hellraiser 2 is easily the best sequel.
I've got to agree, it is. To me, I've always loved Hellraiser 3, but I think the second one is definitely a standout, you know. It is a true standout. I mean, the first one and the second one are almost like one film. They just blend seamlessly, you know, and it's just in one sitting.
Produced and written by Barker, isn't it?
That's right. He was an executive producer on Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, because I know that he was busy on Nightbreed at the time. So, but you can definitely tell it's still his kind of vision and his kind of operatic darkness, gothic S&M. And just you can definitely tell that it's got his mark on it, you know, and it's definitely you can definitely tell he's involved, because I know the director of it, Tony Randall, he edited the first film, so again he had a heavy hand in the first film, so you know that's why it feels almost perfect. They just like two perfect pieces of a puzzle. Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, I think it's been better received over time, you know, and I think it's a fan favourite. I mean, if you ask anyone, they always say Part 2 is the best one, you know, and I think it's up there, you know, it's in the ranks of, like, especially in the horror genre anyway, like Godfather 2, The Dark Knight, Mad Max 2, it's definitely up there with one of the best sequels. You've got a 10th one coming out this year. I think it's this year anyway, direct to video, called Hellraiser Judgment, you know. So I think it was a novel came out last year called The Scarlet Gospels, which is the last ever Hellraiser story, you know, and I'd love to see them adapt that into a film. Thank you for offering to join me today to talk about the Hellraiser film. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I mean, this is my first podcast, so it's been great chatting, and it's great to chat to someone who loves it as much as I do, and you know, thanks for having me on.
What is your pleasure, sir?